Hello, and welcome to the first podcast of our Strasz Assessment Systems podcast, Beyond the Test Strasz Talks. This will be our first one for 2025, and wishing all of you a wonderfully happy new year, and I hope your 2025 has started strong. I am really excited to have a longtime colleague and collaborator of mine join me for this podcast. I'm pleased to be joined by Anna Rubin from Cisco. And Anna, thank you so much for being with me here today.
Oh, thank you, Roy, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Well, we're going to be talking about a couple different things here today, but really focusing primarily on skills and its aspect of being really the currency in the career search, the career workplace in the future. So I'm excited to get down to some of that and both hear about your personal views as well as what through your work you've been doing in this area. However, let's start at the beginning, and if you would introduce yourself to our viewers.
Sure. And thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and we certainly have known each other for years through different. I don't even want to admit how long through different paths we've taken, both always involved in the certification and credentialing industry. So now I'm with Cisco Systems, where I manage our CCNA and CCNP. So that would be our associate and professional level certifications. We also have an expert level certification that's the higher step up. So I manage exam development all the way through exam delivery and, all of those details that are involved in making Cisco certifications possible.
Absolutely. Well, and of course, at the scale that you all do that, that is no small task, to say the least.
I
So
agree. I agree. Sometimes you get so caught up in the day to day that you forget sometimes to stop and look at the bigger picture. And not only with Cisco, but all across the certification industry, and how much it really does impact the lives of individuals. And the day to dayness can get mundane, but in the big picture, it's making differences in the lives of people all across the globe.
well, absolutely. And Anna, as I always start with these podcasts, I like to start at the beginning, and that is, what brought you here? What was embedded in your career journey that led you both to testing and assessment and then ultimately to your role now?
Sure. Wow. So I've been in the testing arena for over 30 years. So yes, I started when I was 12, but um, right out of college, I went to work for the Department of Education in Washington. And after about a year in there, I began working with their Presidential Scholars Program, which is a national program that identifies and recognizes high school seniors for high achievement. And that was my sort of first entree into recognizing talent, utilizing assessments, because we used high school assessments to make those determinations. And then from that, I moved over to ACT in Iowa City, Iowa, where I spent about 10 years with them, working on their recognition and certification programs that they do as a service for a lot of the bigger organizations out there. Then I moved from that to another 10-year stint. Looks like I've got these 10-year things going on in my career, but with the Communicators, which is a sort of a boutique consulting firm that helped certification organizations through all stages of their design, development, and delivery. And then from that, I've been at Cisco for 10 years. So gosh, it truly is these 10-year journeys, but all within that same area of recognizing talent, helping individuals identify their skills. And I'll tell you one thing along the way, and I think we take this lightly, but those that really work in the certification industry, they're passionate about the customers, whether they're helping develop exams for IT and for network engineers, or whether they're working for auto mechanics or nurses or any field. There's this passion for helping individuals quantify and qualify their skill set that really creates a network of colleagues and individuals out there that really rely on each other to share information, to brainstorm, to to come up with new ideas or even to share concerns and challenges that you're having. And it's been the richness of my career is working with different organizations all struggling with some of the same issues and challenges and rewards.
I could not have said it better myself, Anna. That was incredibly well put.
Thank you.
And I know that that's been certainly one of the joys of our interactions through the shared portions of our careers. So I
Absolutely.
can completely see that. And certainly, yeah, sometimes we take that lightly, but at the end of the day, I think for a lot of us, it's the driver of why we get up in the morning and
Sure.
keep coming to work this way. So, well,
Absolutely.
I must confess, our topic today was not necessarily completely original, in that you recently gave a presentation at the ICE Exchange with two other great colleagues of ours as well, really focused on skills being the currency of the future. And of course, this has gotten quite a bit of press out there, both in the popular media as well as in our industry. So let's start with, what does that mean to you in terms of skills being the currency of the future, and really how do you see this shift as being different than some of the degree or role focused endeavors that we may have had in the past within the workforce?
Sure. I think the pace of technology has exploded, and we've all seen this and experienced this over the last 7 to 10 years. And it's made the demand for new and evolving skills around these new technologies explode as well. So, I think as a result of that, the job roles are expanding, and keeping pace is challenging, no matter what profession that you're in. I mean, in IT, we experience it intensely because it is technology based, but in any field, you're seeing that impact of gaining new skills, continually being able to perform your job new and different ways, and being able to incorporate things that are happening, whether it's cloud or AI, data analytics, gosh, all the way to project management and Scrum and Agile. And all of these skills enable you to perform your job better, more efficiently, more effectively, and also just allow you to keep pace. So I think there's a new focus on these skills that maybe are in addition. And in my perspective, it's in addition to some of the job role and degree opportunities that are out there. I don't see it as an either or. I see it as it's becoming equally important to be able to demonstrate a new skill set very rapidly, and one may come in and another may go out, and so they're not staying around as long, and some of them are changing, each year. You looked at AI 4 or 5 years ago, and you look at AI 4 or 5 months ago, and it's completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be the proponent for more of a hybrid approach, a little bit of both. I think it's there's always those arguments out there of, is it all this or is it all that? And I think we need to be comfortable saying it's both, and we need to figure out a way to combine those, not only in our own professional journeys, but for the customers that we serve in professional certification.
Well, absolutely. And I think that's, it's been helpful, I think, at some of our assessment conferences to have individuals there from the education sector, for example, where, they're trying to deal with this in real time. And those that are successful are indeed doing a great job of merging traditional educational structures with skills learning together. But obviously, of course, that gap is still pretty big in a lot
Yeah,
of places.
yeah. No, it is. It is. I think sometimes it's easy to hold on to what we know. And, that's the safety net for all of us. There's a path. You get your degree, you get this job. You get your certification, you get this job. You meet these requirements, you check these boxes, and this, and this happens. And the work world is changing. And those things are still relevant, but you have to now begin to add on additional things to really be able to distinguish yourself in the marketplace.
Oh, couldn't agree more there. Well, I'm curious, really, how you see that emphasis on skills, both in the education side as well as on the assessment side. How has that taken additional form in your work at Cisco, and really how's that influenced the way that you all are working with your customers and
Yeah,
training, upskilling, and also confirming their skills in those areas?
sure. So hands-on, it is the name of the game at Cisco. The nature of a network engineer, someone who is out there designing or implementing or maintaining a network, whether it's an enterprise network, whether it's a security, whether it's something that's automation or fighting against cyber attacks that may happen, setting up data centers, all of that is putting your hands to something and doing it. So um, for our certifications, it doesn't happen in a conference room or a boardroom. It happens at a computer terminal. And so we launched Cisco U a few years ago internally to really provide a single place for our customers to come together and get all the training that they needed, whether it was product specific training, whether it was a specific skill, or a role-based training for something that's bigger that may take 3 to 5 years to acquire the skills to call yourself a network engineer, or 7 to 10 years to really be an expert across that industry. So we look at what those hands-on experiences are, and we incorporate in our training a lot of labs, a lot of opportunities to put your hands on the actual equipment, the actual products that you're using to build these networks, to secure these networks, to automate these networks. So our training has really changed over the years to, as you've been able to spin up virtual machines, as we've been able to use the cloud to provide access to some virtual equipment, it has changed the way we do training to have a lot of hands-on experience. Now, in our certification programs, we're also adding in some hands-on experiences at the lower level. As you know, our highest certification, our expert level, has always been full hands-on. And we're beginning to see the need to really add some of those hands-on opportunities at the lower levels as well.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because as you mentioned, I mean, Cisco has quite the rich and storied history with performance testing. I mean, ask anyone in IT, and
Sure,
they will all point to a CCIE exam experience as either the apex or undoing,
sure,
depending
sure.
upon their point of view. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about how you've brought some of those hands-on aspects into what fundamentally previously was more of an MCQ set of assessments at your lower
Sure,
levels.
sure. So you're right. At the CCIE level, that highest level, it is a 8-hour lab where individuals have to travel to one of Cisco's labs around the globe and schedule. Usually, you're scheduling months in advance to get a slot. You're showing up to a place where you might have 8 to 10 people with you, and you spend all day designing and building a network hands-on. So at the highest level, there it's very rigorous, but it's also um, very challenging for an individual because they are required to travel and to spend all day doing something, and the preparation for that is enormous. So at our highest level, as you can imagine, it's the pinnacle of saying that you have this certification. Um, but it's a pathway to get there. And so at our professional and associate level, we used to have all multiple choice questions. But as we've been able to use new technology to spin up virtual machines in the background, to provide a way for individuals to move over into a live environment, we are providing what we call mini labs or lablets, they're called. And they are really about 5 to 8 minute experiences where an individual is given 1, 2, or 3 small tasks that line up with the blueprint. And these would be at the level of cognitive complexity, the higher levels, where you have to implement or configure. So at those higher levels of complexity, those are the tasks that we sort of target to say, if the blueprint says implement something or configure something, then we're going to spin up a router or a switch with some pre-configurations in it. And then you're going to have access to live environment, those two routers, the consoles where you can run some show commands. You can type in some configuration commands like you would. You can get it right, or you can really mess it up and get it wrong because it's a live environment. And then you're spending your 3 to 5 minutes there, and then you're disconnecting, and then you're going back to your multiple choice questions or to the next lab, whatever's there. And then on the back end, we have a grading engine that's now grading your responses to the lab, spinning it back up and looking at what you did, looking for specific outputs, and sending you a grade back that goes into your full exam score. So right now, most our larger exams will have 2 to 3 of those lab experiences. Just recently, we are trying to get to where it's half and half. So we have one exam out in the marketplace where it's a 2-hour exam. It's for what's called our enterprise core, our largest professional exam, where you spend the first hour performing these 6 lablets. And each one you've got about 10 minutes. And then the next half of the exam is about 50 multiple choice questions. So you're always going to, there's room for both. The described tasks, some of the implement tasks, but for the troubleshooting, the configuring tasks, we are trying to move more and more to giving candidates the opportunity to actually get on a device and do it. And honestly, candidates love it. We've all taken multiple choice exams, and sometimes you're stuck between, do I have the knowledge or am I reading this question right? And all these things that we struggle with writing multiple choice questions. And, you can do it very well. You can do it very fair. You can measure knowledge and skills very accurately that way. But our customers have really begun to say we love it because that's what we do. So if I need to troubleshoot something, I get on the device, I type in a few show commands, I'm looking for this or this or this. And so it kind of falls in line with what they're doing on the job, better for them. And honestly, it's much more difficult to cheat on those as well. So it has multi benefits. It provides a real relevant experience for your minimally qualified candidate, your person who has the knowledge. And then for those that don't, it mitigates the opportunity for them to come to the experience with prior knowledge or to try to sort of memorize what happens there, because the complexity of it is such that you have to go between a topology and a device and show runs and things like that.
Well, and I love the approach that you all are taking, in the sense that I think I stood up many years ago at a performance testing council session and talked about the need for fidelity to be embedded right there alongside the holy psychometric trinity of validity, reliability, and fairness. And I think what you guys have done is both a really pragmatic approach, as well as one that can be emulated even in other professions, wherein taking that kind of hybrid approach provides both the ability to continue what you guys have done well for very many years in terms of traditional assessment, with getting that high fidelity assessment in there too.
Absolutely. And honestly, these things have only become possible with the evolution of technology and those opportunities. We've dreamed about it for years, and we've tried to make like simulated environments and things that we've done through the years to try to, provide some level of hands-on. But just over the last it's really been over the last 4 to 5 years where some of the cloud-based opportunities have given us the chance to really move people around during a test environment and spin up some of these virtualized equipments. And so I think that's, as we're, technology and how rapidly it's changing can be is very disruptive, and it's got its challenges, but the opportunities that are being provided, and I see that even with AI, with other things going on, while it's very scary, while it's very, there's all these things you have to be careful of, and we've certainly gone down that path and continue to go down that path of shoring things up so that you're not putting your programs or your candidates in any kind of danger or risk. But if you can harness that technology and really work it into what you're currently doing, it's changing the face of testing for us. It really is. And we envision, it's given us the opportunity to dream bigger, to say, what could the future look like? And some of it's science fiction, but a lot of it is just, it's out there, but now you have to figure out how to harness it and really build it into, whether it's your test driver or your test engine or your item banking tool or just your testing experience, the way you're working with SMEs and asking them, hey, what would be ideal? And they'll come up with all kinds of ideas. And then you're like, well, our SME started talking about lablets probably, 10 years ago. And we've been working towards it, for a long time and have just gotten there. But it's not been an easy journey. I will guarantee you that.
Well, absolutely not. And I mean, that's the only promising thing, is what seems like science fiction today in a few years will potentially feel commonplace. So in that regard, there's always more to come.
Yeah. Well, you know how you used to sit in conferences and make fun of these people that were like, and one day, and you're like, oh, welcome to my world, buddy. Why don't you try to get my board involved in it? Why don't you try to get my leadership to agree with, you're just kind of like, okay, move on to the next thing. But this is now, these kind of dreams are now really in reach.
Absolutely. And continue to become more so. Well, on back to kind of the core of the skills aspect, how do you see this emphasis on skills as really, how should it change individuals' mindset, particularly as they think about ongoing, hopefully ongoing, continued development, lifelong learning in these rapidly evolving job markets? And I guess, how do you really see that in particular amongst your customer base, since that's the one you're the closest to, but writ large, if you like, in general as well?
Yeah. Well, we've always said, and I've always been a big proponent, that it's never one and done. And so what you learn at the beginning of your career and whatever certification that you get, you never want to become obsolete technically in any field. And so even if you look at degrees and strong role-based certifications, there's always a next generation coming up behind you, a next set of students and workers coming up behind you that have trained on and been exposed to what may be new out there in the environment. So we've known that you can't just do it one way, the old way, and continue to get recertified and really maintain relevance in the workplace. So I think continuing to grow your skills, and now in the rapidly changing world that we have with all of these technological advances and all of these sort of real live global marketplace challenges that we have, that's become more important than ever. So whether you're working in the certification industry like you and I are, and we've gone out and gotten our, ICE CCP, and we're continuing to attend events and study and attend different kind of training sessions to keep up with what's changing in the certification industry, what's changing in best practices and standards, just to be able to help our companies grow. I think even in the workplace, when you see things like AI or cloud or some of the things that I was talking about, even all the way down to project management, like understanding the new approaches, the new tools that are out there, it's not even an option anymore. You have to. You have to, or you will be overshadowed by someone who has that skill,
Mhm.
and you will find them rising up, and you disappearing. So I even tell my team, I have this 80-20 rule. And I say, if you cannot perform the responsibilities of your job in 80% of your time, whether it's 80% of your day or 80% of your week or 80% of your month, then the expectations on you are unrealistic. Because if you don't, you need 20% of your work time to be able to focus on reflection of what you're doing and how you can do it better, reflection on your certification and what your customers are saying and how you can be more responsive to them, and just efficiency and effectiveness in how you're performing your job. So, you know, really pushing my team to spend time every week, every month, um, growing their skill set. So we have, we talk about in our we do it twice a year. Like, what are you going to be doing these next 6 months? Are you gaining a new skill? I've got a couple people on my team that are working to become Scrum Masters.
Mm.
I have a couple people on my team that are really jumping into some of the AI training and policies that are out there. I've got somebody working on their PMP. I've even got somebody working on a higher level, their CCIE, the next level of certification that they don't have. So I think we're seeing this all across industries of sort of a recognition that it's not just pushing you to a training class anymore where, it's an opportunity to go and travel, and those things are important and they do count. But it's that personal recognition that I have to always be out there putting my hands on something, learning really a new skill to succeed in my current job role. And this is that connection between your job role and the skill set that's needed, and the velocity of change.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I think, the 80-20 rule there is probably going to be our quote of the podcast right here. So
Well,
I
it's
love that as a mechanism,
yeah.
for really trying to propel your team on in terms of their development. That's fantastic. I'm curious, just if you had the opportunity to I know you have this opportunity given your family, but if you had the opportunity to sit down with someone who is, kind of entering into a career or beginning to set forth on a path and really looking to, let's say, future proof their
Yeah.
career a little bit in this age of skills, what would be your primary piece of advice?
Well, one thing, and this is interesting because one thing we notice at Cisco is that there are people that take two paths. They get their certification to get their job or to get that first sort of promotion.
Mhm.
So at that entry level, associate level certification, that's going to get you in the door. Or then the professional level certification, that may get you your first step up. Okay. And then people take two paths. They're happy and they just move on and grow in the company based on an array of things. Okay. Or they're just happy where they are. And you also have people who begin on a lifelong journey, and they're the ones that are going to move through your certifications. They're going to take different specialties that you may have. Sort of, they're going to you learn new things for their continuing education, for their recertification, and you can see that they've put themselves on a trajectory to grow and to continue to expand their knowledge. And I think that happens with all of us. Um, Whatever you choose as your career, whatever path you take, whether you're in an industry that has strong certifications or whether you're in an industry that doesn't. Um, my piece of advice is get on that trajectory to always be improving and adding onto your skill set. Um, take advantage of all of the micro credentials that are out there, the skill-based certifications that show a small set. Like think of them as badges. The Girl Scout badge. Add them on. Keep adding on those badges and keep getting those skill-based certifications. And the skill-based certifications are easier to acquire. They don't take as big of a chunk of time to learn, to master. So, don't overlook those, because distinguishing yourself in the marketplace, it does matter. It does matter. And I think we saw at the beginning about 30 years ago, probably a little bit longer, but yeah, 30 years ago, when IT first hit the marketplace, everyone was jumping on the wagon to say, I can program your network. I can build your network. I can do this. I can do that. And people were in such desperate need to understand the whole concept of data centers and networks and routers and switches, and that you could just self-proclaim yourself an expert and get a job making six figures. But there was just a small amount of time until the market put a demand on individuals to be able to quantify and qualify their skill set. And that was the birth of IT certification, because
Mm-hmm.
people began to say, we need to know that you know these skills. And so, once you get critical mass, now you've got certified IT professionals out there all over the place. So now what was once that kind of end all be all, you're now, in a market where a lot of people have that same certification. And so now you're going to need to be able to continue to distinguish yourself with other skills within your profession. And I think this is where these continuing to be a lifelong learner comes into play. And I think you see that in every industry. Whatever the hot topic is right now that people are self-proclaiming themselves an expert in, whatever industry that's in, if it's a medical field, or if it's in information technology, or it's in some type of transportation, whatever's happening in your industry, whatever that kind of shiny object is, go ahead and dive in and find a way to solidify your skills, to demonstrate your skills with something tangible that you can show in the workplace, because it will matter. It will matter.
I love that advice, Anna, and I think best reflects the, let's say, pathway of continual intellectual curiosity, and I think that
Yes.
is a really great way to kind of describe that path for people for success.
And
So
people change jobs so quickly too. So your people aren't diving into the same level of depth, and that makes it challenging. Makes it challenging because, you know, how are you going to distinguish yourself?
Well, I love the guidance that you've given here today. I know we're about out of time, so I'm going to just say you've given us, I think, between the pathway of intellectual curiosity here and that 80-20 rule, along with sharing your background throughout the industry, I think you've given us some great food for thought today. So I really appreciate you taking the time and spending it with us. As always, it is really great to speak to you.
Thank you.
Well, for everyone listening, if you've made it this far, thank you very much. If not, I should say, if so, we look forward to seeing you on our next episode here early in 2025. We'll be coming out with a new one about every 2 weeks. So look forward to seeing you around LinkedIn, social media, as well as upcoming assessment conferences. With that, thank you very much, and have a great start to the new year. Take care.
Take care.